Hey everybody, welcome back to the Flat Thunder channel. My name's Andy, and this is a Wheel Horse 520 LXI lawn and garden tractor. It has the 22 horsepower liquid cooled Kawasaki engine in it. We diagnosed this unit. Originally we were just going to replace a water pump, but it has another sealing gasket issue on the front cover here of the engine. We need to tear that thing off of there, get in there, and try to seal this thing back up. From the previous video, I thought this was part of a separate water pump cover piece, and I was incorrect. This is part of the main front cover here of the engine, and it's leaking right around in this area here, and the exhaust manifold gasket was blown out and leaking as well because this whole side of the engine flexed and grew when it got too hot. First thing we're going to do is rip out the battery, try to get this clutch off the front because that all has to come off and this cover has to come out. Woo! Tried to weld on my wrench. Probably should take this PTO belt off. It's a magnetic clutch. It's like it's just on a key, so hopefully that's not a taper, just a key. Chances this is gonna work. Oh, so nice. I was afraid this is gonna be on a taper. Oh, it's coming off real nice. Oh, beautiful. So I just pried against this spacer in the front cover. Came right off there, real nice. Looks like they got some never sees on there. Beautiful. All right. Before we get all excited, we probably should drain the engine oil because when this comes off, it's going to go all over. So let's get a catch pan and do that. That's a nice new oil. Look at that, looks brand new. Got the front clutch off for the PTO. We got the oil draining. We're ready to get in here and start ripping this cover off. But before we do that, I blocked off this hole. We're gonna blow some of this dirt off of there to try to keep all this excess contaminants out of the engine. If you look down inside at the rear of the engine, there's one of the mounting bolts. There's another mounting bolt right there. And this is a flat plate that the engine bolts to. So this flat plate was back here, goes up here, and then as it gets up here, it does a little dog leg. Underneath this little dog leg, there's bolts from here up into the cover. And to access them, you gotta go through this little hole here, but you can't. You can't get your wrench in there. There's no access from the bottom because the axle is right there. So we're gonna have to loosen this plate, maybe loosen the plate in the back, try to lift it up so we can get a wrench in there to remove the bolts from the engine cover to this mounting plate. Yeah, just pointed out how the engine is mounted in here. The more I look at it, the more I'm concerned that we're probably gonna have to take the whole engine out. I even started marking the throttle and the choke cables so we know where to reset them should we have to rip them out. What I'm gonna try to do is I'm gonna try to loosen the mounting plate so we can get up underneath that mounting bracket for the engine to access those bolts into the front cover. Good chance probably not gonna be able to do that, and the whole thing's just gonna have to get tore out of there. So Throw you in a little time lapse there because there's going to be some foul language, I imagine. Not really. Maybe. Maybe. Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Lots of foul language because if they just made this engine so you can bolt it down from the top, and or if they made the design of the tractor so you could access those mounting bolts, this would be a whole lot easier. But when you build a tractor, you don't really plan on removing the engine regularly. So, here we go. So that wasn't as bad as I originally thought. Basically, right now we have the engine, so if you really wanted to, you can remove that engine from this tractor simply by removing the throttle cable, the choke cable, a few wire connections, and the fuel lines. Everything else is removed. Get you in there and show you we had to remove the coupling for the direct drive on the rear of the engine, and we had 4 bolts on the engine mounting plate. Hopefully what we can do now is we slid the engine forward. Hopefully we can tilt it up a little bit, access those mounting bolts from on the bottom side of that mounting plate to the front cover, and get that ripped off of there. Here's the drive shaft coupling that went to this pulley. You got a paint marker up there where we marked it just in case it had some orientation. I don't think it really matters. Unbolted that. We only had 2 bolts back here, and then 2 bolts on the front side, and now the whole engine is slid forward. You can see the fan is out of its shroud, and I think that will allow us to access the mounting bolts to this front cover because it's hanging out over the front axle. So we should be able to get under there, take those bolts out, and then remove all the bolts of the cover, and all right. Now I think we can finally, well, wait, we might have to take it off the bolts in the back. We unbolted the mounting plate from the tractor. We slid the engine forward, and then we just removed the 2 bolts into the front cover we need to remove from the mounting plate. But we also went back here and had 2 more bolts on the rear of the engine holding it to the mounting plate. We didn't remove them all the way, but we loosened them up so we can hopefully lift the engine a little bit to get it up off of this mounting plate. So maybe get a wedge or something to shove under the front of the engine. See, oh yeah, we're finally where we needed to be from the beginning. We just need to take this cover off because this gasket is leaking over here. So let's zip all these bolts out. I hope they're not like 15 different sizes as far as length, but we'll see. Got a ground cable here. Have a electrical component here we need to get off. Alright, that's out of the road. Back to order of business. I think we got all the bolts out. The good news is the bottom ones were the only ones that were longer, probably because it's thicker portion of the cover. Let's see if we can't pop this thing off of there. Dipstick tube. What's happening? Oh, a little oil catch pan cover is holding us up. It has 2 legs. Didn't know that. Now she should. Oh, nice. Some of the things I didn't expect to see here, we took this apart, were these extra gears here on this cover. And I believe this guy right here is likely the oil pump. At least I think that's what it is. I know nothing about these engines, but that's about the only thing I can suspect what that is. We have an O-ring gasket here we need to make sure we don't lose because we don't have one of those. But what we do know here, I think this is probably just a anti-chatter gear that goes in between the 2 main gears on the engine. But what is important here is we can see right here, this is exactly where our leak was. This is our water spout coming out here, so that's a definite failure sign. Take you closer. Can you see that? You can see the missing gasket material there, and that's where our leak was. So hopefully the gasket we have in the box, which we didn't open yet, matches this one, and we don't lose this gasket because that would be bad. This O-ring gasket, because that would be bad. So let's get this thing peeled off of here, get this all cleaned up, and hope our new gasket lines up. And definitely don't mess with what I believe is the oil pump. Drop down in the comment section and let me know if you know about these Kawasaki's. Just looking at it, I can only guess that this is the oil pump. So I'm trying to break this off as much as I can with my fingers. When you go in here mechanically removing stuff on an aluminum cover, you can scratch it and damage it pretty easily. So get most of it off I can. My hands. Block worked to its extent. It seemed to work best when you just get at an angle and pull it. But kind of ran out of luck here, so we did get our gasket scraper out. Important part about this is you want to make sure you don't go after it too hard, and if you nick your blade, you gotta watch, because then that nick will create grooves in your aluminum. Just ever so lightly. This front cover has an oil seal where the shaft comes through. We have a brand new one here. We're going to go ahead and replace that. Here's the part number if you need it. Just need to pop this guy out of here. See what we can do without messing stuff up. Use my teeny tiny hammer. Compliments of Dad. This is the one with all the screwdrivers in them. Obviously a new copy of the original, but yeah. And we're in. It's all cleaned up with the plastic block, our scraper, and then Scotch-Brited all the rough spots. Up here we do have some pitting. So what we're going to do is we're going to put some sealant up here around these water ports. Maybe come down and up a little bit. That way we keep the water out of the crankcase if we have some problems with the porosity and the slight pitting that's up in these areas here. Focus. Here's the gasket that we bought for the main cover. Moment of truth. Let's see if this thing
is the right shape. I didn't check until now, of course. Largely because I had no idea what it needed to look like. Oh, winner, winner, chicken dinner. It's gonna work.
Since we're in here, let's take a little look at see what we got here. We got this gear here, which I'm betting probably does, that's probably the camshaft, and there's probably, I don't know, I'm guessing push rods in here to come up here to the valves. That part I don't know, never took one apart before, but I'm assuming that's the camshaft. Driven off your crankshaft, there's the counterbalance of your crank. And this also drives your water pump right here. So you don't want to separate those two because you'll mess up your timing. If you look real close, you can see this line right about there, and that's where our seal was running on the shaft. So hopefully the new seal will seal up just fine. We do have some wear there, a wear mark from the seal. We went around this with Scotch-Brite. Again, we got a little bit of pitting up in this area here. We need to get that all cleaned off, blown out. Make sure we don't lose that O-ring gasket. We're going to put some sealant up here around these water ports and then slap her back together.
Since we're talking about it, don't let me forget that little gasket on the cover. So I just went around with a little carb cleaner and then I had my lacquer thinner rag and just did a wipe off here. That's to clean the surfaces so we can put our sealant around these water jackets. Same thing over here. Less is more here. If you put too much of this on here, it's going to smooth out all over. It's going to break off and it's going to clog your oil pump pickup and then blow your engine up. That ought to do it. So very light coating. So this cover is the main bearing for the engine. And the main bearing is actually, I believe, just aluminum. So what we're going to do, lubricate this guy up with some Lubriplate. I got way too much on there, but I was looking for is just a nice thin film here where the bearing's going to start up. You know, the oil pump's loose and drained. We make sure this isn't dry. This shaft running on that aluminum housing, and also our new seal is going to be riding on there, wearing its own groove. So we got our gasket material a little bit on here around the water jackets. Got our gasket on the housing here. Hitting our oil pan thing. A wire in there. Gears aren't lining up. There we go. So I don't know where you cut out, but we torqued all the bolts up. We got this cover on here. We first got it on the guide pins and the bottom was a little out of position. Had to pop it back off, not all the way, just out a little bit, about 1/4 of an inch to shift the bottom of the gasket, get her back on there, and then tighten all our bolts up. Off camera on the bench, when this was sitting over there, we cleaned up the surface for the water pump. I'm going to go ahead and seal all that with some extra sealant, largely because I don't want water from the cooling system going back into the crankcase. They're likely going to tell you that you're not supposed to do this, but I'm doing it anyways. And the trick here, again, is don't go crazy with the amount of sealant that you put on here. A little bit will go a long way. I put all the bolts in here for reference for length because there's multiple lengths. I'm gonna take these out. I'm gonna sit them in the old water pump. Since we got it here, I would just use normal grease, but we're gonna put a little lubricate on these plastic gear teeth here. And hopefully that'll help that seat into the old gear pro. I put a little lubricate here on these gear teeth. That way, hopefully that'll help that seat in and wear. Okie dokie. So there's the outside cover. We got to clean this up yet. Completely forgot about it. And then get that smacked on there. Let's get our smew on there. Somehow, there we go. Ta-da! We finally changed what we wanted to get in here and change in the first place, which was this water pump that turned into all of this and everything else we need to put back together. So now if we can just get all the other crap we took apart together, along with the exhaust, we should be good to go. Finally got what we needed to replace in the first place on the engine, or what we thought we needed to replace, which was the brand new water pump. I just remembered we also have the thermostat that we want to replace, and now's a perfect time because the engine slid out. So we need to get in here and replace this thermostat while we're at it, and then we'll continue with the reassembly process. So we got two 10 millimeters, one here, one down here. Good news is at this point in time we pretty much have all the tools out. Short screw in the bottom, long screw in the top. Thermostat. Just a very tiny bit of excess here. I think that's more from sliding it around than it is from squeeze out. But when you're done with this, if you can tell, if it looks like the frills off of a 1970s shirt, you did something wrong. You shouldn't be able to tell or see a whole bunch of squeeze out here. And if you do, it should just be a very small amount. All right, thermostat. Check. All right, here's one pro tip for you. I did it all in time lapse, but what we did was we got the engine mounted back up to the main drive shaft that's on like a rag joint or flex coupling for some misalignment. Put all the bolts back in, but did not tighten up the engine bolts yet. What we want to do is we want to turn over the engine a little bit so it can find its natural comfortable spot and then snug up the engine mounting plate bolts. Also, another pro tip, do not put the battery in until it was filled back up with oil. That will prevent you from dry starting it. Let's see what's going to happen. I hope it just spins over real nice and easy and nothing goes shooting or flying around. I'm not trying to start it here, so hopefully it doesn't. No noises. No noises. We didn't hear any knocks or any crazy loud bangs or anything there. She actually tried to start up on us. We didn't really want it to start. What we're trying to do here is prime that oil pump and also get the engine to find its natural sweet spot where it's aligned with the drive shaft. Then we're going to go back in and snug up those engine mounting plate bolts. Let's give her just another little bump. One more for good measure. All right, now we're gonna get down there and tighten those bolts. Just topped her off with antifreeze, and you guys didn't tell me I forgot to put on the hose at the thermostat. So guess what? Just a nice little pile of antifreeze all over. I hate antifreeze. It's up in there. We're gonna hose that off. But yeah, completely forgot to put that hose on, and guess what? When you fill this, it comes out there. So we're gonna go ahead and fire this thing up. We're gonna leave the radiator cap off so it can maybe burp itself. Or maybe actually we'll just pop it on there because I don't want it to blow up everywhere. Pop it on there and then we'll open her up as she's running and let it kind of burp itself out. That's the idea anyways. Alright, off camera, I sharpened the blades, greased the deck, and got the mowing deck back on this tractor. We're going to go ahead and use this on our yard because you know what? One thing that happens when you work on other people's lawnmowers, yours isn't ready. Yeah. Let's get this thing fired up, test mow our lawn. It is tall. All right, this lawnmower is back in the cutting business. I just noticed that we adjusted the back all the way up for our yard since it was super tall, but didn't adjust the front anti-scalp rollers. So if the customer wants to leave it all the way up, we're gonna have to adjust those. If you like this video, don't forget to give me a thumbs up. Leave your questions and comments in that section below, and don't forget to punch that subscribe button your way out. She is back in business, baby. And more importantly, we can get this thing out of our way and out of our garage. Thanks for watching, everyone. going somewhere? Turn, you're gonna hit your playset. Oh, don't hit the camera. Wave, hi.